What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me once again to break down yet another NASCAR race as they're rolling into Sonoma for another road course. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Kyle? Oh man, I'm looking forward to this weekend. I get kind of an impromptu guys only weekend by myself, which I thoroughly enjoy, by the way, as the wife is on like a road trip with a girlfriend. So I
Nice.
will be able to spend all day Sunday watching the race, playing NASCAR video games, getting into the sim racing more. So I'm excited for this weekend of racing.
Yeah, for sure. I saw a picture online that made me laugh. It was, but as I mentioned, Brian and I our goal is to be twitching here pretty soon, and Brian's got his racing wheel in. He's going to get a stand and all that stuff for it, and we'll be able to bring you some Twitch content, us playing some NASCAR Heat um, as well as talking about some of the races and some of our stuff. Um, as you may have noticed, last week we did a live stream and broke down stuff after qualifying. Brian and I are going to try and keep that rolling again this week, even though qualifying's not actually happening. It's automatic this week. It was just a good exercise, I think, for us to kind of look at how the odds have moved and how some of the stuff's adjusted over the week. So our goal is to do that Saturday evening, usually around 5 o'clock Pacific, so 8 Eastern. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on the bell notification so you know when we go live. We'll jump on for 20 minutes. If you guys have questions about DFS lineups, about bets you may want to make, we'll be there to do that. Like I
We'll
said,
remind you of our best bets. So
yes.
I mean, we're both kind of on fire right now. So
Yes, and we
tell
had
your
a
friends.
really, really good week of our 8 core guys in the
Yes.
DFS. I think 6 of them made the top 10.
Yeah. All
Uh,
four of mine were
yeah.
T10 finishers.
Yeah, so that's pretty good when you're talking about the likes of like Chris Buescher.
Yes.
So that worked out really well.
And yes, we
Um,
finally learned how to pronounce his name correctly.
it only took us a year and a half, but we're there.
Yeah.
We got lots
Uh,
to get into though, so let's jump in. Let's start with those betting odds, and as I told Brian, I have a little bit of a different setup, so bear with me if it gets a little clunky, but we'll get everything going for y'all. There's our odds. There's what we're looking at. Chase Elliott is your favorite at plus 225, followed quickly by Truax, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. Brian Twining, where is your head at with your initial leans and initial thoughts?
well, I mean, just going into another road course race, it's been known over the last few years that the top two drivers at these tracks are Chase Elliott and Martin Truex, which
Yep.
I mean, that's the reason why they are such heavy favorites. I mean, it's a little bit more concerning with the way that Truex has been riding of late here in 21, where he's just had a streak of bad luck, and he doesn't seem like the same driver. And pretty much all the Toyotas have kind of fallen off the pace, besides Kyle Busch over these last couple of weeks. Even
Yeah.
seeing Denny Hamlin drop back a little bit, but Truex starting all the way back in the 19th position. I think that's interesting that he's still 4-1. I know it's easy to make up that kind of ground for drivers that are really good at particular tracks, but looking at the rest of the top 10 here, I mean, Kyle Larson, he's on a streak of monumentous proportions here, and this is a track where he's held the pole the last 3 times that they've raced here. So it's not surprising to see him with that 8-1 to win, but he also hasn't finished better than I have this little stat here. He hasn't finished better than 10th in those 3 times that he started on the pole. So
Yep.
this isn't necessarily a track where he rides good at. These odds are more based on what he's been doing in this 21 season, not his success at Sonoma. So it's interesting to see him there. I like William Byron kind of moving up the board as the 6th favorite, finally getting the respect he deserves. I think it's interesting
Let's
looking at
talk
the
some Larson really quick. I want to dive in
yes.
right there. I wanted to see if you thought I was crazy because Kyle Larson to not top 5 is minus 129 this week, which for
I
when
wish
you're
I could I wish
when
I
you're
could screen
looking at
share right
not
now.
top fives, they're usually like at least 2 or 3 to 1. So to get anything in a window where it's like maybe that's bettable. The other thing you could bet is Martin Truex not top 5. I know it's scary because he's so damn dominant at this track, but you're getting plus money on that. And because as you mentioned, he's starting in the teens, so to get up, obviously he could do it, obviously he could win the race, and he's
Yeah.
incredibly interesting as an outright. He's somebody that when Brian and I flip over and talk, DK will obviously be on the board. But if you want to go in on Truex and bet some stuff like the outrights, if you want to play him in DK, and then you want to give yourself an out in case things don't go well, you could look at that plus money to not top 5 and say he gets 6th or 7th. And even in DK, like obviously that's not what you're looking for, but he's still getting the differential. Maybe he leads some laps and kind of falls away towards the end. Who knows? But that could be an interesting way to kind of approach this week. But I did think it was incredibly interesting that we can actually get some decent numbers on these guys. And as you mentioned, Kyle Larson, his best finish is 10th to 14th,
Yep.
26th, 12th, 15, and 28. And this is a guy who traditionally, it's not like he struggles at road courses. It's just something about Sonoma and him have not got along in the past. So I thought that was a little bit interesting.
Yeah, and then one more statistic of note. I know this isn't traditional qualifying, but going back all the way to 2010, the pole sitter's best finish at Sonoma is 4th, only done 3 times in that span. So the pole sitter isn't necessarily where you want to be for this particular race, and it's not something that has bode well for people sitting on the pole in terms of their final finishing position. So I like the Larson not top 5 bet as well. I actually have that as something that'll probably be on my card. It'll be interesting to see which direction it moves, though, because you have a lot of people like us who are kind of newer to the sport who are seeing his stint of recent success, and they're probably like, oh wow, that's kind of ridiculous, we're going to bet yes top 5. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get a better line closer to the beginning of the race.
Yeah, it might be something where I make a small investment at that number and then see where it goes, to jump back in, because as we mentioned, this he is a guy who has had some decent run at some of the road courses. Brian, a number that stood out to me is Alex Bowman at 22 to 1.
Yes, sir.
I think he is a number that absolutely makes sense. Obviously a driver trending in the right direction. Has some decent runs of top 10s, including an 8th at the Charlotte, and a 7th and a 10th at Daytona road courses, and then an 8th at Circuit of America. Decent run, nothing exceptional.
Hey, he got that top 10 for me.
Exactly. Yeah, he cashed that for sure. But it's a number that seems a little too aggressive, considering he's starting in the top 10, considering his recent form, and considering his historic kind of six run. I don't want to say success because he hasn't got the checkered flag, or and he has 1 second place and 2 top 5 finishes, but it just feels like a number that's mispriced, and a number that even if you don't want to take that outright, you could look at something like plus 250 to top 5. That's a number that I could absolutely see myself betting come Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, Alex Bowman, again, he's standing out for me. I mean, I mentioned this at the Coda track, is that his worst finish in road courses since 2018, now 11 races, is 14th. And he's actually has the best or highest worst finishing spot of any current driver, being like his worst finish at a road course over the span is 14th. Yeah. And that's the best of any driver. So you're getting that kind of consistency out of a guy who has the potential of a top 5 or a top 3. So he's somebody I'm looking at in those markets, knowing what he is capable of, and then maybe placing an outside bet on him to win the race. But I don't know if he has that speed to keep up with the Chase Elliott or maybe Kyle Larson surprises, but I like him in the top 3, top 5 market.
Yeah, yeah, I think if you want to take a a 2 unit bet and maybe do a unit and a half on the top three, top five, and then sprinkle a little on the outright just in case that comes to fruition because I think it can.
He's also
Um,
a good top 10 bet still because he's only minus 129. It's the
yeah,
same odds as betting no on Larson to finish top 5. So you're getting that to finish top 10 for a guy
yeah,
who I think he has 3 straight top 10s, and he's on a streak of 3 straight top 10s this season. So,
yeah,
and he has the ability to run up there, starting in the 7th position at a track that traditionally doesn't have very many cautions. So,
yeah. Ryan Blaney is right in front of him, 20 to 1, minus 139 to top 10. I keep going back to him, and maybe that's stupid on my part, but honestly, like as bad as it started for him, he ended up finishing, close to top 10, and ended up having a pretty strong race come, by the end last week. Another guy that has had a decent run on road course tracks, and um, feels like a good opportunity to jump in and get a decent price on him.
yeah, Blaney was another guy I was looking at. I mean, especially because they haven't ran here in 2 years. So it'll be interesting. And they're not getting qualifying. I don't know. I doubt they're going to have very practice or
Yeah.
maybe little practice. So it's going to really be who's successful on road courses, how familiar are they with this track, and then you're looking at past successes in terms of that. And Blaney is a guy who has shown the ability, but he's kind of also been that roller coaster ride of finishes
Yeah.
this year. So you're kind of hoping to get the better of the end.
Right. Well, and that's why someone like Blaney sticks out to me as somebody who I think, has that outright potential, but maybe when it comes to DraftKings, the downside is a little too worrisome for me to get there unless you want to, go to him in a GPP and then, put some safety around him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think that's a lot of names. Any other, top 5, top 10 numbers you're looking at, or maybe some head to heads that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, I keep mentioning this. This is multiple weeks in a row now. I'm still riding the Tyler Reddick train here. Good old number 8. He's working on another top 10 finish. He's got 3 straight and 7 of his last 9 in the top 10, and he's still plus money to T10. So I'll be betting that again. I'm going to do it until he fails. Kyle Busch. He's a guy who has been, somebody who has disagreed with me on numerous occasions, but over the last few races this year, he's ran really well. This track in particular, his worst finish over the last 5 is 7th. So I'd like him as a top 5, minus 115. You're kind of laying a little bit to get
Yeah.
that kickback, but for that kind of success, yeah, and what he's doing this season, I'm gonna bank on him finishing up there. So maybe even going top 3 is the better bet.
Yeah.
Um,
There
and
is
then
a Kyle Busch minus 122 versus Kyle Larson head to head that tickles my fancy a little bit.
yeah, it's
But I
it.
guess I don't know. We'll see. But like I assume that if Busch beats Larson, he's probably going to be in the top 5 or top 3 conversation, and maybe we should just give ourselves that wiggle room in case Larson, because Larson's been amazing, and to fade him too much might not be the move.
I yeah, I just don't really know what to do with Larson because I mean, it's like half of 3 of the last 6 races, he's had over 100 DK points. So when you're
Yeah,
looking in terms of like DraftKings, he's just absolutely balling out. So he's killing it on the road, but he has that potential to crash out or just completely disappoint. So I'm worried about putting too much behind him or not banking on him like last week. If you didn't have Larson in your lineup or you didn't bet him, you weren't winning any money.
yep. We were talking about that last week. You really need that dominator because it seems like, especially the majority of these races,
Well,
there's
especially
been
in a
one
race
guy.
that had as many laps as
Yeah,
that did.
exactly. Like Denny Hamlin had one. I think Truax had a race where he was
Mhm.
dominant. Like if you don't have that guy, you got nothing. So we can switch over and talk some DK as we kind of transition here, Brian, and we'll throw up your core here. Party Marty 10-9, Chase Elliott. I think that's going to be a really popular combo and a interest in a way that I think a lot of people will start their lineups.
It's
I
very
think
terrifying, though.
yes, it is, but that could easily be your 1-2 in some order. Um, and given their track record, you just have to find a ways to kind of differentiate yourself. But that I think it's a very compelling way to start your lineups.
Yeah, this week I mean, it's happened to me multiple times this year where because I like to avoid the heavy favorite, I missed out on those dominator points or the guy who wound up outscoring the rest of the field. So my mantra this week is don't overthink it. Take the
Yeah,
best 2 road course drivers, put them
yeah,
in my lineup, and work with that.
yep. And then right behind those two, Eric Jones, 7,000. I'll show my hand here in a second, but
Oh no.
oh yeah, it's Eric
Oh
Jones week.
no.
We're simpatico there, and
Oh great.
um, as we've mentioned, he's not having the year that we kind of hoped he would. The leap he would take. Obviously, he's in a not as good of a car this year, but he's had
I do
some.
have a comment on that, by the way.
Okay, break it down.
Well, if you look at Eric Jones' last 4 races, I
Uh
mean,
huh.
even last 5, last 6, last 7 races, his worst finish is 27th. And the guy who replaced him has finished 24th, 38th, 21st, 14th, 28th, 17th. So it's not like Christopher Bell is driving any better than Eric Jones. So
Yeah, I feel
maybe
like that's a personal attack at me, and I don't appreciate that.
maybe it's actually Joe Gibbs Racing and not the
Yeah,
driver that is the problem. Like
yeah.
that's all I got to say.
Yeah, and I wonder if Jones is starting to get comfortable in his car too.
True.
There is a phase, a transition phase, as you will, but he has had success at road courses. He's had success, at a few different spots this year, and I feel like he's between his price and where he's starting and his
Yep.
upside. Like I feel like there's a lot of solid value, and I don't expect him to kill you, and I think he can provide a ton of point production this week.
Yeah, he going back to driveraverages.com, he has the 10th best road course like finish of 14th among current drivers. So that, I mean, that's a good starting point here as he's finishing top 10 on average or close to top 10 amongst the drivers. And then he's only finished worse than 16th twice over the last 11 road course races. So again, nice consistency, knowing he's going to be finishing within that, top third of the field here.
Yeah.
He's got 2 straight top 10s at Sonoma. And in
Yep.
3 of the last 4 races, he scored 30 or more DraftKings points. So for $7,000, I think that's a great value for a guy who's driven well here and driven well of late in the Cup Series.
Yeah, he's got the ninth best average rating at Sonoma. So yeah, I mean, not just another feather in his cap. Once again, he's not going to destroy you.
Yep.
He's going to give you some salary savings to get in the Truax, to get in Chase Elliott, to get in Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin or wherever you want to go to. And should be super rock solid. Talk to me about Chase Briscoe at 6,900.
Yeah, I'm trying to find those guys that have the pop ability for kind of cheaper
Sure.
value. And in terms of his like history in the Cup Series at road courses, it's not very many and it's not that good. But going back to his Xfinity career, he had an average finish of 9.5 or so, 9th or 10th, and it's tied for his best of any course type. So these kind of races are where he really excels at. He had 2 wins in road courses over that span at Charlotte and Indianapolis, and 7 top 10s during that span. And he's shown the ability to give you that huge boost from such a low money point in 2 of the last 4 races. He's got 59 and 43 points. So he has the ability to go well over his price point in terms of what he's bringing to the table and your lineup. So I'm kind of banking on him using that past success on road courses and giving me that boost from such a low value point.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great call, and one that makes a ton of sense. We'll flip over and look at my core now. You'll see a few familiar names. So both Martin Truax at 10.9 and Eric Jones at 7K.
Oh, I like Ryan Newman.
Ryan, yeah. So we could talk Ryan Newman once again, as you mentioned with Chase Briscoe, finding guys below that 7K mark that make sense, that could be an interesting option. I think Newman's track record at at both Sonoma and um, at road courses in general, like he's not amazing, but he's not going to crush you. I think he has a ton of upside, and we've seen him pop randomly at different races, and I think he can be a name to look at. Another name in that range is Matt D Vendetto. I didn't end up going to him, but he's another guy that's kind of in that range that could make a hell of a lot of success, a lot of sense. Has a decent run of success, including a fourth last year after starting 19th. That's very interesting. And then Kurt Busch. Last weekend was not great for him. I was on him last week. I'm going back to the well, even though he burned me. Um, just he's starting in the back of the field. He has a tremendous run on road courses, and I think worst case scenario, he gets you a top 20, and uh, you're loving life. But I expect him to do much better than that.
Yeah, Kurt Busch, kind of looking at the numbers at this track, I think he has the second best average finish here over the last 10 races. So, I mean, obviously it's a track he's very familiar with. I do worry about his kind of string of bad luck and just not so pretty finishes this year. I mean, I don't think he has a single top 10. Okay, here we go. I actually wrote it down. Since Homestead on February 28th, he hasn't finished better than 13th. That's a lot of races. That's like 12 or 13 consecutive races.
Yeah, he had minus 22 last week. He had minus 10 at the Goodyear 400. But he's
got bad luck.
Popped at the Dryden and got you 50 points. He also popped at Bushy McBush and got you 41. Popped at the Toyota Owners, got you 46. So, he's a real wild card, and he is priced up, which is interesting.
Oh, it's that 30th starting spot.
Yeah,
so many movement
obviously points. But like I could see him being a name that not many people go to. I think maybe they look, okay, I'd rather spend that salary on a Kevin Harvick or Alex Bowman, or I'd rather go up and get William Byron, Ryan Blaney, that kind of stuff. But he's starting 30th. I think he has legit top 10 upside this week. And I may look to make that bet as well, because I think that's a number I could find myself getting behind. Plus 160 to top 10. Like I think that's very much in the cards.
Yeah, and to kind of looking at the way I mentioned this earlier, the way this track drives and how accidents are few and far between. There's not very many cautions caused by green flag racing. So this is more likely conducive to him having a clean race, moving up the field, and getting close to that T10 finish. So
yeah. And like last year, he finished 13 after started 16, but the year before finished 6th after starting 23rd. He finished 7th, starting 17th. So he's shown the ability to move through the field and have a nice finish. So it will be, we'll see, but I just think the upside is much higher than any potential downside with him, and he's somebody that I could absolutely get on board with this week.
Yeah, I like that call too, because also going back to the history of this race since 2000, the top 10 in the finishing grid has been made up of almost half of the drivers started outside the top 10. And there's been like 2 or 3 of them that had started the race outside the top 15 and occasionally top 20, top 25. So I think this track is really one of those where you do see guys move up the field a lot and get into contention for winning the race or getting that top 5 finish. So I like Kurt Busch. I like the guys further back in the pack.
Yeah. Another name from last week, Chris Buescher, is also interesting. I know he's starting 12th, so I kind of one of the reasons why he didn't make my core, but
me too.
He is.
I like a potential T10.
Yeah, and so depending on what you're doing with the rest of your drivers, he might be a guy that's super solid. And if you take more gambles with a couple other spots, maybe he's somebody that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm really excited for this race. To be honest, I think there's a lot of potential. my DK lineups. And as I mentioned, Brian and I will be live on Saturday, early evening on the West Coast. We're thinking maybe around 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. So make sure you hit that subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. Let us know down in those comments, who is your favorite bet for the week? And Brian, that leaves us with one thing only. What's your best bet for the Save Mart Toyota 350?
Man, the pressure's on this week.
Yeah, we got to hit some winners.
I know. I'm not going in that direction though. I am going to back my dude once again for the second time in 3 weeks. Alex Bowman. I'm upping the ante. Give me top 5 plus 250. Let's go.
I love that call. And I think that is a bet I will be placing real dollars on. Because like I said, I think he's trending in the right direction. I think he has enough history at these tracks, and I think that number is very compelling. That Kyle Larson number is so tempting. Can I really do it? I don't know if I can.
I'm really interested to see the way that moves though, because I really feel like it's gonna get closer to even as the race gets closer.
Yeah, I think, man, Christopher Bell. Am I over? I'm probably overthinking this. That sounds like.
Hey man, there's a lot of pressure on these things.
There is a lot of pressure. I want to hand out
some real greenbacks here.
I want to hand out winners to the people. I want to give them what they came for. What do I like? My brain stopped working here for a second. You know what? Let me see here. Wait, is that right?
I have a feeling I know where you're going, and it's
what am I doing?
Kurt Busch.
Yeah, plus
top
160. Eric Jones to top 10 at plus 325.
I know that is such an intriguing number. I will be betting that, but it's not something I'm willing to put my name behind.
Oh, we're such suckers for Eric Jones. I don't know why.
I don't know, man.
I don't either, but yeah. So officially official best bets for this pod. Alex Bowman T5 plus 250, which I co-sign. So either it's going to work out great or just he's going to get like 35th. I don't know. One of the two. And then I'm going Kurt Busch top 10 plus 160.
Don't forget to add that Tyler Reddick top 10 plus 130 right now. Still even money. You saw last week it was even money leading up to race time when it got down to minus 129 or something.
Yep.
So take it while it's hot.
Yep. And make sure you are following both Brian and I on Twitter at Notorious KRO. Oh, the things went away. Here, let's do this. That way the people can see. I'm not really sure what happened there, but that's what it's supposed to look like. So very cool. Follow us on Twitter. We try and tweet out our betting cards each and every weekend. You can always hit us up there if you have questions about bets you want to make or DFS thoughts or any of that kind of thing. But yeah, I appreciate Chris. Who did I have? No, I want to say Chris Buescher top 10 and Tyler Reddick top 10 basically saved my ass last week. So I appreciate both those guys coming through in a big way.
Yes.
So yeah. And then, so Bowman and Bowman and Kurt Busch will both make my list. And I will keep an eye on that Kyle Larson. Keep an eye on it. I think they can do. I like it. That's all we got for today. We will be bringing you more fantasy football content. So make sure you check that out. If you play fantasy football, if you want some help doing that, we'll be bringing you all the content leading up into the season. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to y'all next time.